Yes, that's right. It's Joe here live for Joyrider TV, back with some more Q&A, where I'm going to be tackling some pretty serious questions about catamaran sailing. Yes, I am. And what are we going to do? I think we're going to dive in straight away with today's hot topic, which is jib settings. This question was actually presented by a good friend of mine, Quinty, who he works as a sailing instructor in the Brighton area of the UK, and he is about to start, I believe, racing a Dart 18, and he was asking about what kind of guidance can we have for jib setup. So we're going to talk about jibs, and not just for the Dart 18. We're going to talk about the jib setup for all types of catamaran, because the same rules, like with a great many parts of this great sport of ours, the same principles do generally apply across the board. If we're talking about one type of boat, it's not like a different type of boat doesn't have the same rules of physics or something that apply to it. No, it will be fairly similar. So here we are. So firstly, there's the different ways that we can change how the jib is set up. You'll see that I've got the arts and crafts department have been doing very well. Unfortunately, we did run out of time because this Dart 18 was going to be a tornado like this, but it didn't quite make it at this time. But maybe we'll keep the Dart 18 sort of shape because why not? All right. So the different ways that we can change the setup of the jib. Let's write a little list. So the first one, how we can set the would be tack position. So with the tack on the jib, you can generally, on most types of boat, you can have it higher up or lower down. Tack position. Number two, clew position. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know the terms so well, the tack position, the tack of the sail is the front bottom corner. So let's have a jib on here. So this is the tack. The clew is the back bottom corner. And then if, you know, we can't leave this other one unannounced, this is the head, perhaps a bit more obviously. And I tell you what, let's just say, name the other edges of the sail. Front edge is called the luff. The back edge is called the leech. And the bottom of the sail is called the foot. So we've got the tack position, clew position. Then we could have the luff tension. The luff tension, and we're not talking about jib halyard. Well, we might be talking about jib halyard tension depending on the type of boat, but what we're not talking about is where, like on a Hobie 16, where the jib halyard tension is related to the rig tension. That's not what we're going into here. And then the final one that we've got is batten tension. All right, just abbreviating there a little bit. So if with, as far as I remember, with the Dart, because it's been a long time since I've sailed a Dart 18, and I believe on the Dart 18 we don't have like two types of clew fitting on a jib. If this is one is where we've just got one hole in the corner of the jib. Any Dart 18 sailors out there, quickly put it in the live chat. Is it like this? Let's call that, you could just put in a number, or I'm pretty sure it's number one, or number two, where we have a plate which would have a number of holes in. Okay, so if you are a Dart 18 sailor, answers in the live chat, or if you're watching this later on just for fun, you can put it in the comment section as well. So if we talk about, if we've got a boat which has just the single hole in the clue, that does actually make it a bit more simple because we haven't got quite as much adjustment. What we're looking for, generally speaking, until it starts getting really, really windy, is where we're positioning the jib, the tack, and the clue is all going to have an influence on our sheeting angle. Of course, we might have the option to change where the sheets are on the boat as well, which gives us so much choice of what we can do. But what we're trying to do is have it so that where we're sheeting the jib, if this is the jib sheets here, we want the jib to be sheeted evenly. So the jib sheets, if they're like this, what we're going to do is, the more kind of like, what would you call it? The more in the lower down the sheeting angle is. So if it's more like this, it's going to be pulling more on the foot of the sail. If it's higher up, so pulling straight down, it's going to be pulling more on the leech of the sail. But what we want is an even pull between the foot and the leech. Because if we've got an even pull on the foot and the leech, it means that the whole jib is going to be working correctly. And when we say working correctly, that means that the telltales on the jib, we've got, let's say we've got two sets, one set at the bottom, one set at the top. The effects of this sheeting position are going to be, if we've got more pull in the foot, it's going to sheet the foot of the sail in more than the top, which means the sail is going to be twisted off, and your telltales, like the inside telltale, the green one on this example, is going to be flying straight back towards the bottom of the sail, but the telltales higher up, the green one, is going to be completely lifted because the top of the sail isn't sheeted in enough, because this sheeting angle isn't totally correct. So what we're trying to do with the sheeting angle is get it so it's absolutely correct, so that when we sheet in, the top of the sail is working the same as the bottom of the sail. Cool, that's good stuff today. Yeah, so if the only adjustment we've got, and actually the boat that really springs to mind for this example is the Hobie 15, because it has number one on the clue. It doesn't have an adjustable jib sheet position, but you can move the tack up and down. So the way that we can move the tack up and down is here. If we zoom in, we've got a chain plate with many holes, 10 holes, I would think. And we can put the tack of the jib onto any one of these holes. So what would we do? All right. So if we put the jib really low down, what's going to happen is we're going to get more pull in the foot, less pull in the leech. And one hole on this adjustment at the tack is going to make a big difference. So if we put it in the lowest possible hole on this chain plate, so I'll just complete the drawing here. There's the bridle wires, can't even see them really. There's the forestay there, and the jib would kind of be like that, and then it would attach like that. So the further up we put the jib, so effectively the higher up we're putting the jib, the more tension we're going to get in the leech of the jib. So if we're in the bottom hole, when you sheet in, you could do this by just putting your boat slightly. If this is our boat, it's on the land. If we put our boat, can we see this? Yes. If we put the boat so the wind is to the side a bit to get a bit of wind going around the jib, or better still on an upwind course, sheet the jib in on the land, look at the telltales on the jib, and if at the top telltale on the inside is lifting, then we're like, okay, we need more tension in the leech, so move the jib up one hole. Just the practicalities of changing the tack position here, unless the wind is very light, when you want to change the tack position, it's a good idea to drop the jib completely if you're on your own, because if you don't, if it's windy and you try changing this, you'll let a bit of halyard off, disconnect this, and then if you're not careful, you might lose hold of it, and then the jib might start flapping around halfway up the mast. Quite embarrassing. What you could do, actually, I'm just thinking on my feet here, is, I don't know if you saw when we were talking about adjusting the shrouds safely by having a second pin. You could do that. You could put a second, if this eye here is that big, put a second pin in there, ease the halyard off, take out this bottom pin, safe, and just move it one pin at a time, like 1, 2, take one out, put it above like this, kind of like a ladder. So that could be very effective. Yeah, so that is how we would adjust the leech tension of the jib using the tack position. There we go. So that is, I'm not going to give that a tick, I'm going to give it a dot. So the next one, clue position, same thing. We're still looking to get this even sheeting on the jib. So if we've got an adjustable clue, we generally would have a set place to put the tack. Now, where would we put that tack? What we want to do is put the tack as low as possible, but making sure that we've got enough distance between here and here. This isn't going to happen on this sort of jib, like on a Dart 18 or a Hobie 15, but on a Hobie 16, this might happen. We want to put the jib as low down as possible, but if it's too low down, you might find that you don't actually have enough distance between here and here for the foot of the jib. So what we want to be able to do is, when we've pulled the jib as tight as possible, for there still to be a gap between the blocks on the jib and the bit where it's going to, so we can always sheet in more. Because when the wind starts getting heavier, the tighter we can pull the jib in, it's going to flatten the jib and make the boat much more manageable, and especially much quicker sailing upwind. Yeah, so we want this as low down as possible, but so that we can sheet in a lot. Like, for example, on my sails on Bad Boy 95, as depicted here on the jib, it's a slightly different cut on the jib from Whirlwind Sails. It's still absolute firepower, but it's slightly different, which means I have to set it a little bit higher up than the European sails. Interesting. Yes, because the foot of the jib is slightly longer than the European sails. It's true. So having set the tack of the jib, and in fact, we can tick that off there. So thank you. The clue position, if we go hot, this is a bit more obvious to look at. If we go higher up, more tension in the leech, lower down, more tension in the foot. There we go. There we are. So yeah, that's pretty much clue position done. Clue position, quite easy, really. All right, so the next one, I'll come into by the way, if you're here in the live chat, I will be coming into the live chat as soon as we finished this first part of discussion, and then from the comments in the live chat, we will add to this great topic of which we are speaking about. Thank you very much. Luff tension. So the luff tension on the jib is what is you might also call jib downhaul. So this is what is going to affect the shape of the jib. In fact, on the Dart 18, silly me, it's been a while, you can't make this adjustment because, yeah, here we are. This is the memory kicking in. You can't make this adjustment here because at the top of the jib, it hooks in to a little ring, which means where that is set, which means where the tack is set in one position. So on the Dart 18, you've got tracks for the jib sheets. So instead of this or this being moved, what we're doing is moving the jib sheets backwards, more tension in the foot, forwards, more tension in the leech. There we go. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? So if the top telltale is opening too much too soon, then we move the jib sheet forwards and we get more tension in the leech. I'd just like to say big thank you very much to Stephen for the super sticker or super thanks or whatever it's called. You can sticker or super thanks just next to where you put your live chat in at the bottom. And I think the way I'm going to play it is, unless it's a brand new question, if you do a super sticker, I'm going to read your earlier comments immediately. Can't believe it's weeks since Stephen was here last week. He hurt his knee. He says, relating to this topic, if it's windy, then crank the jib on so it's flat. I thought we'd just have it out flapping with the gibbler, or the gibbler, the traveller. We could call it the gibbler, all the way out. Yeah, so it's a good point. Yes, you will have seen in the videos on Joyrider TV, when it's windy, you will see a lot of the time I'm sailing with the jib pretty loose, almost flapping. But what I'm not doing there is sailing upwind. If we're sailing upwind, then that is the time when we want to, and I believe the term is blade the jib. So if we absolutely crank the jib in as tight as possible, it'll go totally flat in the same way as when it's windy, we're sailing upwind. We want the mainsail as flat as possible as well, because that flat jib is not going to produce much more heeling. It's just going to really be the most efficient, lowest drag, highest lift shape that we can get, just completely flat. If it is windy and we're sailing upwind, and perhaps we've put the main sheet traveller out a bit, what we want to do, if the main sheet traveller's gone out a bit, because of wind strength, we should always put the jib traveller out more as a percentage. So there's only like that much range in the jib traveller on the 16. So if the main traveller has gone out halfway to the toe strap, then I would say the jib traveller wants to go almost all the way to the end of the limit. And then you can crank it in tight from there. So we bladed the jib very flat, and off we go we're off to the races. So there we go. Thanks very much, Stephen. And yeah, there we go. So back to jib luff tension. Hope everyone's loved talking about the jib. Yes, it's the smallest of the sails, but does that make it any less important? Possibly. Jib luff tension, which we could call jib downhaul. Jib downhaul, we might have, like, if this is the tack of the jib like this, maybe we've got a wire luff. There's the end of the wire coming out. That bit is the bit that will go in there. And then what we might have, or what we should have, and this might be at the top, or the tack and the head, or the top and the bottom of the sail, is what we might have there is a hole in the tack of the jib. And then what we can do is, if it's a new jib and we haven't used it before, on something like a Hobie 16, this is more likely we'd set it once, and that will be set pretty much consistently, unless you're participating in high level racing. But I think even then, people aren't messing around with this very much. So then we take a line, piece of rope, and we do a few times around here, and we can effectively pull downhaul onto the jib once we've got tension in the jib halyard, because otherwise this won't be accurate. There we go. What do we want to do with the luff tension? We want more when it's windy, less when it's light. So a good way of gauging what is the meaning of more is, as I said, when it's a strong wind, we want to have, for upwind sailing, that's when it's most critical. For upwind sailing, we're going to have the jib sheet cranked in tight. Now, because we're cranking it in tight, that is going to pull. This is no longer the wind. This is the direction of pull. We're going to be pulling the jibs kind of downwards in a way. And as we pull it downwards, we might start getting the appearance of horizontal creases in the jib. And those don't look nice, and they're not good for our airflow. So then with the jib sheeted in, we can then pull the downhaul on a bit more, the jib Cunningham, the luff tension. You might have to let the jib sheet off, pull it on a bit, tie it off loosely, then sheet in again, have a look, see how it looks. But yeah, so that is how we can set that tension in the luff of the jib. If you've got like on an F-18 or a Tornado, if you've got an on-the-fly jib Cunningham system, then yes, we're doing the same thing as here. If we're getting creases in the luff, we're going to pull more on. Again, we need to let the jib sheet out before we pull it on. Otherwise, there's too much tension in the sail to actually allow it to happen. And how much should we have for light wind? As little as possible, but again, so that we don't have these horizontal creases there. All right. Oh, yes. What's that you're drinking out of? I hear you cry. This is a custom Joyrider TV travel cup available at totaljoyrider.com. This is American style, but with a Joyrider twist. Totally customizable, although there is an off-the-peg version, which I believe has got the, in fact, it's on the, I've got a sticker on my phone. It's got that So if you imagine that on there, lovely. That's the off the peg one, but total custom designs possible. Yes, they are. So I find it very practical as a solution for drinking. It's true. All right. So you may think, all right, that must be pretty much it. All right. Well, we haven't talked about batten tension, but let's talk about batten tension. Let's get it done. So before we talk about batten tension, we might be getting a little bit technical now. Let's talk about batten stiffness. Ooh. The stiffer the battens are, the flatter the sail is going to be. And I just spotted this, just hiding. Sorry, just trying to. This is a ruler. So the batten will flex like this. This is quite soft, so it flexes quite easily. And as you can see, that easy flex puts quite a lot of curve in. If this was stiffer, like an IKEA pencil, if we try bending it, it's stiff, it's not going to bend, it's going to stay quite flat. So if you have a choice of batten stiffness, medium is probably the safe choice. But if you really had ultimate choice, what you would want is stiffer battens for heavier winds and softer battens for lighter winds, so that we've got more curve in the jib for the lighter winds. And then batten tension, we want to have the battens in enough. This is a difference to the mainsail. I find that what we want with our batten tension is enough so that when the sail's lying flat on the floor, there is a bit of curve in it. So that will pop from side to side, basically with no tension in the sail, with the tension in the batten, so that it has got a curve in it like that. There you go. So there, I hear you cry, we must be done talking about the jib. Well, yes, but well, no. Because the one time that messes everything up is if we alter the mast rake on the boat. So can I do this without having to redraw the jib? So if can I change? Can I do this? So if, yeah, you can see what happens if kind of, yeah. So if we're doing it like this, sorry, this is just a lazy way of doing it without having to redraw everything. So if we've got more mast rake, what happens is the sheeting angle of the jib changes quite a lot. So as we rake the mast back more, it's going to put a lot more tension into the foot of the jib, less tension into the leech. So then we might have to alter everything again to get us back to that sweet spot. Yeah, I think that's all we need to say on what happens if you change the mast rake. You're just going to have to look at it again for your new mast rake position. The one other thing that I didn't mention is when it's windy, as well as flattening the jib off, we do want to have a bit of twist in the jib. So nothing to use. Sheeted in hard at the bottom so it's flat. And then as we go up the sail with it opening up, because then that's going to allow air to escape. It's going to depower the sail. It's going to make the boat more user-friendly. So if it's windy, the most simple representation of this is with the clue layout number 2, is when it's not windy, or when you're looking for power, put the sheets in the middle hole. When you're looking to lose power because it's windy, you go one hole down. There we go. That's going to open up the leech and allow it to twist. There we go. And as Nicholas says in the live chat, Saturday morning knowledge bomb. Okay, that's good. Got to go back to work, but I'll return to get the rest. Nice one, Nicholas. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for calling this a knowledge bomb, which it is. All right. So checking in with everybody who is checking in. I think it's a great series of diagrams. So thanks for the question, Quinty. I hope that helps in some way or form. Possibly not, but who knows? I'd like to say hello first to new channel member, John Lorento. Nice to have you on board, John. And I believe that you are going to be hitting Vassiliki Beach pretty soon. So it's going to be great to meet you and possibly, hopefully, get out on the boat with you and see how you're getting on with your cat sailing. Yes, that's right. If you are lucky enough to come to Vassiliki, Lefkas, Greece, I am, depending on the time, of course, available at times for private coaching. Oh, yeah. If you need to give your catamaran sailing a boost, let me know that you're coming when it is, and I'll let you know what my availability is at that time, because some private coaching sessions on the water to actually put all this stuff into practice live at the time doing it, whatever amount of wind you want. Of course, it is wind dependent, that statement. But if you're quite new to sailing and you need to work on everything like your tacking, jibing, where you sit, how you hold the tiller extension and main sheet, do that in light winds. If you're a bit more experienced and you're looking at getting out on the trapeze as the helm, we could do that. If you're already doing that, but you're not happy with your boat speed or your pointing or anything like that, we could do that sort of thing, and everything else as you might expect. So look forward to meeting you soon, John. Another channel member, we've got Ryan in Maui. Oh yes, he says, and he is right. Must be something like 6 o'clock in the morning in Maui right now. Channel member Jens on board. A lot of channel members in today. Nice to see. Nice to have you with us, Jens. All right. I believe Jens is going to be with us fairly soon as well. Perhaps did I make that up? All right, we've got Drone Life 850 on board. Nice to have you with us. I've just got a Hobie Holder 12. I am not familiar with this craft. Yeah, I might even have to Google that later. All right, well, I hope it's providing you with not too many scratching your head moments with where does this bit go? But congratulations. All right, Archie's on board, Hobie 16 sailor. First live chat and lesson I've caught. Nice one. Good to have you with us. Hopefully the first, but not the last. We've got Fawn G on board. Too kind, Fawn G. You'll learn a lot. Joe is a good teacher. He is. He knows how to put. Anyway. All right, and then we've got all this. How do I pronounce this then? We've got ID Kim New 11111. Complete noob here. Nice. I think it's so good that, you know, people are coming into the sport. It is good that the sport looks good enough, which it is, to attract new people into it. It's very important to the future of the sport, of course. And that's what I found down in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, USA. That is a place where catamaran sailing is strong. Yeah, great to see the amount of enthusiasm for cat sailing down there. Granted, there was a big regatta going on where you'd think the more enthusiastic cat sailors would be, but it was just like a breath of catamaran sailing fresh air, and very nice. So 5 Wands, as going to be known, lives in the Midwest in the US. Does anyone know what a good used price is for a Hobie Cat 16? Yeah, I would say if you want to get a boat which isn't going to need much doing to it, then probably $3,000 is the lowest kind of used price, if it's including a trailer for the road. And a lot of boats, I know in America, a lot of people just use the road trailer and don't have a beach trolley at all, but which is fine, but it's not quite as good for the road trailer. To have a beach trolley is nice. So if you could get a boat for $3,000, including the trailer and the trolley, and it hasn't got any soft spots on it, so the hulls are stiff, perhaps even the previous owner has replaced the rigging, because for everybody who's been here before, you know that I like to say, if you don't know how old the rigging is, you should replace the rigging, because you want to be replacing your rigging about, if you're a freshwater sailor and you store it all indoors over the winter, then probably I'd say, I'm changing my tune on this a little bit, but probably every 6 years is a good time to change your rigging, if it's well looked after. If you take it off the boat, store it indoors for the winter, and you keep your boat next to fresh water, not salt water. If you keep your boat next to salt water, and let's say, extreme example, you leave it there all year round, then you definitely want to be replacing your rigging, I would say, every 3 or at a push 4 years. And that includes, if it's a Hobie 16, the main halyard as well, because if that breaks when you're out sailing, it is just a bit of a pain, really. Yeah, the reason it's more frequent if you've got your boat next to salt water is because that salt in the air is quite corrosive and will accelerate the degradation of your cables. Boom. Using the big words today. Thank you. All right. Yeah. So 3,000, but you can still get boats which are going to give you a good time for, I think in the US, probably as lit. I was looking at a boat for someone recently, and it was so cheap. It was less than $500. And it looked like, yes, it might have needed new rigging. It might replace the rigging, replace the ropes. Replacing the ropes on the boat is a really nice way of freshening up a boat which looks a little bit dated. If you can replace the ropes and the trampoline, in the US, I think great place to get a not original trampoline, so you can't race with it in Hobie class racing, is Salt City Sailing. Their trampolines are very good. I've got one on Bad Boy 95. Very good trampolines, and at a price you can almost hardly believe. There we go. That's a glowing endorsement. Yeah, and yeah. So yeah, do check out the video on what was it called? Something like used Hobie 16 buyer's guide, which goes through all of the parts of the boat, and if there's a problem with them, how much it's going to cost you to put them right. All right. So Armored Lion is on board. All right. Nice to have you with us, Armored Lion. How large of a gap would you say is enough between front beam and the blocks on the clew of the jib? Or does that not matter? My boat's got a rather large gap here. Not sure if it matters. Yeah, I think pretty normal is when you've got it absolutely cranked in the on the European boats. So you'd probably have a gap of between 5 and 10 centimeters. Yeah, so like that, when it's absolutely cranked in. If you've got a bigger gap, I would think maybe you're sailing with your mast a little bit more upright, because as your mast comes more upright, that gap is going to get bigger. But it's not an issue. It's what we've talked about here. that kind of explains what we're trying to achieve. So if you can achieve what we're trying to achieve, then the actual gap, granted, it might not be what is considered normal, but if it works because you're getting the shape right, that's what's most important. Nice one. All right, we've got Mr. Tony KP in Ebeltoft, Denmark. Raining, the weather report there, I'm afraid. All right, so Fawn G says, I want to learn trapezing for the first time in a few weeks. Wondering what will be the best way of grabbing the jib sheet, especially when standing at the back of the boat with no crew. A fine question. Yeah, so if you are trapezing single-handed, main and jib, then what I find to be the best thing to do is you're not going to be able to have the jib sheet with you all of the time. I think you've just got to accept that. But what I generally do, can I draw this? I don't think I can. But I would, if this is the windward side of the boat, or yeah, in fact, let's get rid of all this. We've finished talking about the jib. Yes. All right. So all right, bear with me as I rub the board. But what I do when I go out single-handed, if this is the jib sheet, we're on this tack. So here's our trapezing chap here. Is I just put the jib sheet so that it lies over the edge of the boat a little bit, and it might stay. Generally it's pretty well behaved. It will stay there most of the time, which means you can get hold of it and change the jib setting if you need to. It's a very good idea to do this, because what you don't want to do is be sending it only to find that the jib is really oversheeted and it's going to capsize you. So yes, get that in the right spot. Thanks for your question there. All right, Ryan says, can you talk about backwinding the main with the jib and what to look for if it's happening, how to prevent it through jib tuning? Yeah, so what can happen, as Ryan says, is we're going to have to go old school on the drawing. Here's our boat. There's our mainsail. And there's our jib. Now, backwinding the mainsail. This is when the jib is kind of, the angle of the jib is in more than the angle of the mainsail. So when the wind comes off the back of the mainsail, it goes into the back of the jib. This bit of the mainsail backwinds, which means it actually blows the wrong way. It can actually make the mast rotate the wrong way, which is quite a, it's not a good look. It's really bad for your boat speed. You could, in an extreme situation, you could damage your mast. So we do need to do something about it. If you're sailing a boat which doesn't have jib travelers, then the best thing we can hope to do is, when it's windy enough that this has started happening, is, like I was saying, set the jib so that the jib sheeting angle is lower. Okay, yeah, this is the back of the jib. So that the jib sheeting angle is lower, so that we're opening up. So that's flat, and then that is opening up at the top. So we've got that twist in the jib. So then, because the jib is opening up as it goes higher up, it's going to be less likely to backwind the mainsail. But the other, and slightly less kind of scientific way of sorting this problem out is just not to sheet the jib in quite as hard, or try to sail with the main traveller in more if it's at all possible, which I know at times it's not possible. So that if you haven't got a jib traveller or some sort of barber hauler system for the jib, let's not even worry about what that word means. Then yeah, more twist by moving your sheeting angle lower down on the jib so that when it's sheeted in, the inside telltales, yes, says the bottom and a little bit out at the top. Sorry, this drawing wasn't very good. It's at a funny angle. I hope that helps a bit. All right, we've got channel member Hanny on board. Hello, Hanny. Hanny is currently in Vassiliki. I know that for a fact. All right, we've got Norman on board. Reporting for duty. Yes, you are. Thank you very much for tuning in. Everybody who's tuned in, thanks for tuning in live. Everybody who's watching this later, thanks for watching this later. I hope there is some solid gold information within these walls, which is helpful to you in some way. If this is proving to be helpful, please just take the time to take your finger and hit the like button, because that means that this video will be presented to more potential winners who will get to see this information. I'm just going to take a moment actually at this time to talk about potential winners. Yes, I'm wearing a Speed Stick t-shirt because today is the first day I've literally just signed a contract, and this is so exciting for me. But there is now an official speed app. Okay, yes, I'm going to continue with this. It's the official speed app, boat speed app of Joyrider TV. Wow, that is strong. I think I had it loaded on my phone. It's one that you can use on, wife gave me this for Christmas. Very nice birthday, actually. On the smart watch, you can have it on your phone, or you could have it on your, no, it's not there anymore. On your computer, although you probably wouldn't want to take your computer out on the boat with you so much. The app is called Water Speed, and it is so good, I have to say. And what we're aiming for is next year, for everybody who, well, basically for next year, hopefully, if things go well, the Water Speed app will be hosting the Speed Stick competition, and it will make it all completely official. So at the moment with the Speed Stick, everybody's using different devices. Some read a little bit, let's call it stingy, where they don't give you very good speeds. Other ones are quite generous, and they'll, what's that? 18 knots. Let's call it 22. That sort of thing. So if everybody is using the same app, that is going to be great. So I did go sailing today. It was very windy. And this is how it's looking. So I recorded it on the watch, didn't need to take the phone on the boat. And it is so good because it gives, like many of these things, it shows you where you've been. It's kind of color coded to show your fast bits, your slow bits, tells you how fast your tacks and jibes were, how your exit speed was. You can go, if you like statistics, almost too many statistics to handle. You could just ignore them if you want. So that's the map of where we've been today. Very nice. And there's actually what is really cool is on the smartwatch. There it is. Do you see that? Water speed. Yes. On the smartwatch, you can set it so that it buzzes every time you beat your previous top speed in that session. Now, for me, that's pretty handy. So here we go. So we're getting some stats in here. Spoiler alert, video coming soon. Max speed. I'm not even going to tell you what that was. Loads of stuff there. You can get split analysis, which just goes a little bit too heavy for me. That's like how you did in the different kilometers of your session. But then as we scroll down, it's absolutely remarkable. And then this is the bit that I really like: best speeds, show list. And there we've got a whole list, which goes best 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. We go on 500 meters, official speed record there, 5 kilometers. Oh, so my best speed for 5 kilometers was 10 knots. Interesting. My best speed for 1 nautical mile. This is good. 16 knots average speed. There we go. So yes, this is a great app. Yes, it's the official speed app of Joyrider TV. If you do it on any device and you've logged in on everything else, you'll then see your results on all of your different devices. If you're organized like me, what you would do afterwards is name the session. So I'm going to name that session FX1 sailing 30 knots of wind, probably more, brown trousers. It's a bit of a long title. So there you go. That is jolly exciting. If I'd have known that before I'd have got my custom Joyrider travel cup made, their logo would be amongst the logo of the other great people that I'm working with in making these videos, or who are helping me with stuff. So there we go. Exciting times. All right, back to the live chat. All right, so we've got Philip on board in Ireland. It's getting sunnier. Ready to get wet on Monday. Nice. All right, Stephen says, I paid £1,600 for my Hobie 16. Spent the same again getting it fixed up. It now sails like a crispy new thing. Yeah, so so that kind of adds up. 3,000 units of currency is, if you want a nice boat that you can rely on, that you know you can get bargains, cheaper boats. Stephen continues, my new trampoline was from Salt City. Sailing, it rocks. Yeah. Philip says, I replaced all of my rigging and any dodgy looking fittings like clevis pins which are bent, anything like that. All right. Oh, new name, just IDK. Oh, IDK, I'm new. All right, thank you very much. Nice. I'll be sure to check out your videos about buying one. Yeah, great stuff. All right, we've got Eric on board. Nice to have you with us, Eric. Eric in Melbourne, Florida. I think new people should go. Yeah, this is good advice. Actually, go in the cheaper side of things and don't go out in such strong wind. Yeah, it's very true. It is the stronger wind which is going to put the most stress on your boat. Might sound obvious, but it is definitely true. So you can on an older boat, like on a 1970s boat with the original sails, you could go out in up to 8 knots of wind and have a nice time, easy. But what I would say is, even then, do replace the rigging, because you don't know. It doesn't take much for a bit of rigging to break, and you don't know when that's going to be, especially if you don't know how old it is. Yeah, so Eric continues, learn the boat all around, spend enough money on the second boat when you know more. I'm down with that. Nice to have you with us, Eric. All right, Armored Light says, yes, my mast is rather high up. Not much rake. It's an 82, and my blocks are huge. So, oh gosh, yeah, huge main sheet blocks is a real world issue. So I can't rake it back very much. All right. Ryan in Maui says, yeah, the Nacra 500 has 3 manual peg adjustments for the Jib Traveller. I've added 2 more holes. Great stuff. And Ryan says the water speed app is what he's been using. Easy. It's the iPhone. Is the iPhone 15 really waterproof? Like my pocket. I keep it in my pocket whilst blasting through the swells. Yeah, even if I think with a telephone, put it in a dry bag. You get a dry bag for $10. You get a dry bag that like hangs around your neck for $10. I'd say for the risk of losing it or it not being as waterproof as it thinks it is, yeah, I'd get the dry bag. And if you get water up the bit where the lightning thing goes or where it charges any type of phone, and if it's salt water and you get some salt up there because you haven't rinsed it properly, it's just a pain. Dry bag, I would say, definitely. All right. Eric says downloading the app now. Very cool move. Thanks. Yes, I think it's great. And I do have to warn you, we're going to be there'll be a little bit of chat about this app on any videos that involve sailing fast. Just letting you know. Of which there's going to be a new video on what happened today here in Vassiliki Bay coming tomorrow evening. Channel members will be able to see it as soon as I've finished editing it, which to be honest is going to be about tomorrow lunchtime Greek time. Very exciting, so keep your eye out for that one. Ben Snack says, whoa, this app is great. That is exactly what I thought. Sunset Wingman, nice to have you on board as always. How did you end up in Vassiliki? I Google Earthed it and it looks like a tiny little town hidden away there. You should do a tour of the town. Yeah, maybe I will. Seems like a very good idea. I'm going to do that. But the reason I ended up here is because it is for a long time now, like probably 40 years or maybe more than that. I don't know. Since when windsurfing had its real boom in the 80s, Vassiliki Lefkas, Greece became famous for the wind and the flat water, and windsurfers soon discovered that this was the best place in Europe. Maybe almost equal would be Lake Garda in Italy, but there the water is cold. Whereas here the water gets warm, especially in August, September. Lovely. Yeah, so it's windy. Windsurfers came here, and then in 1986, the founder of Wild Wind Sailing Holidays, Mr. Simon Morgan, who is a fanatical Hobie 16 sailor, he came here with his Hobie 16, just traveling around, just almost by chance because somebody told him it was windy here, and he started Wild Wind Sailing Holidays. And 10 years later, I'd learned about it from some windsurfers that I was at college with, and they said, if you like strong wind, if you like going fast, if you like it nice and windy and hot, that is the best place to go. So that is how I ended up here. And to be honest, it is so good that I've never even considered going somewhere else. And perhaps because it's so good here, it has held me back in my personal racing career, because I'm not, you know, all that keen to leave this place to go somewhere else, which, you know, nothing against anywhere else, but it might not be as good. All right, I just saw Philip has put in the live chat, what is the exact name of the app? It is Water Speed. Oh, how do you draw a D like that? Yeah, Water Speed. And it is a very good app. So that is how I came to be here. Thanks for the question. All right. If we could have no further questions in the live chat, please. Unless they are accompanied by a super sticker or super thanks, that would be great. Or in fact, if you're a channel member, then yes as well. But we've been going an hour now and I've still got some preloaded stuff and feeling a bit dry, and I've got some Amstel in the fridge upstairs. Ooh. All right, Ben Snacks. All right, so Ben Snacks, this is to Eric, known as the E-Town, says, I live in Brevard as well, on San Sebastian. Joyrider TV, bringing sailors together. Okay, Thorn G says, all right, here we go. I wasn't aware of this, but water speed, unfortunately, seems not to be available for Android. Let's just add the words at this time. Sorry about that. Norman says, don't know if my preloaded cues worked. Oh, Norman, I would have to ask. I'd actually say I haven't got your preloaded questions here. So Norman, if you want to put your question in the live chat, I'm very happy to come on to that, because somehow I must have missed that for the preloaded selection. All right, so on to the next preloaded question, and this comes from Stephen, who is there somewhere in the live chat, and he says there was quite a lot of debate last week when Stephen was here about how hard to go into a gybe, how much steering to go into the gybe. So, of course, like with most things, it depends. It really depends on the amount of wind, but in the lighter wind, you want to steer the boat through the gybe nicely. But what we're trying to do, all right, let's just look at what we're trying to do in a gybe, whether it's windy or not windy, is we definitely want to be starting the gybe from our proper, this is the gybe without a spinnaker, by the way. When we start the gybe, we want to be starting the gybe from the traditional catamaran sailor's broad reach, which, as we all know, is with the apparent wind coming straight across the boat at 90 degrees. The apparent wind, of course, the combination of the true wind and the induced wind that we create by going forwards. So we start off with the boat on that angle, and then what we're trying to do is carry our speed through the turn. So even in light winds, we want to carry our speed through the turn. So whatever the wind strength is, we do want to be quite assertive going into the turn so we don't slow down too much. Now, one trick for all wind conditions is, I think I did a video on high wind jibing, but this is actually relevant for all wind jibing, is bring the traveller in a bit before you jibe. And what that means is the mainsail, if we've got the traveller out completely and we're going for our jibe, we'll actually get slightly beyond dead downwind before the boom goes across. So when we get, basically when we're in from here to here, we're going to be slowing down, losing speed. So we want to keep the speed through the turn. So the early, and so all of this, we're going to be slowing down until the boom comes across, sail fills, and then we'll start picking up speed again as we head up. So if we can get the boom to come across earlier, we won't lose as much speed. So a good way to get the boom to come across earlier is to have the traveller in more, in towards the center of the boat. I would say if you put the traveller just inside where the tow strap is on the trampoline, that's a good starting point. And that does mean that the sail is going to come across earlier and we won't slow down as much. So we want to be assertive through the turn. I can't personally say turn the rudders at 10 degrees, 15 degrees, anything like that, because it's always different and it does require a certain amount of feel. But from sailing with a lot of people, what I would say is most people, nine times out of 10, people are going into jibes too slowly. It's true, too slowly. So go into the jibe with a bit more assertiveness. Yeah, and get the boom to go across earlier, because that is going to help you to carry your speed through the turn. When it gets windy, it's the same. Because what we don't want to do is have the boat slow down as we're coming towards dead downwind. We want to carry the speed through the turn. So you really have to be assertive. But the difference is when it's windy, as soon as the boom comes across, but not before, definitely not before, never before, not before the boom comes across. But as soon as the boom comes across, straighten up with the rudders. Because what we don't want to do when it's windy is then power the boat up on the new tack before you're ready. If you do that, do you know what might happen? You might fall out of the back of the boat because it's going to accelerate quite fast. Chances are you're still on your knees facing the back. Boat accelerates, off the back of the boat. Oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, so straighten up as soon as the boom comes across, but not before. And then sit on the new side, then bring the boat up to the wind on the new side. There we go. That's the way that we're going to do that. Thank you for your question, Stephen. I hope that helps. But yeah, so it does require commitment, especially when it's windy. Best time to jibe is actually just after a gust, when you've got more speed from the boat, from the gust. And I won't go into this too heavily, but when we get the gust, we're going to turn more downwind because of our increasing induced wind, which allows us to turn down more, but keeping the apparent wind at the same angle. So with the apparent wind at the same angle, it then means that our jibing angle is much less. So a smaller jibing angle means it's a lot easier to get to the point where the sail comes across without slowing down. There we go. All right, so Norman's question is regarding Tiger sailing. Could I safely solo my Tiger if I depower the sail by rigging maximum mast bend? Also, should I ballast, perhaps a weighted vest? This is so yeah, back in the days, dinghy sailors used to wear weight jackets to make them heavier, but people have stopped doing that because it's really bad for your back. So I would say straight off, no weight jacket required. Should you put maximum pre-bend in the rig? Yeah, if you've got the time on your hands, I would certainly set the boat up for the lightest sailor settings, which would be rather than more so maximum pre-bend, which means you'll be bringing your spreaders back a bit more on the mast, and if it's windy, increasing the tension a bit more on the diamond wires as well, so that the mast has got more bend in it. So yeah, that's going to help a bit. It's going to help a bit. Also for lighter crews, lighter teams on a Tiger or any type of F-18, Tornado, F-16, Hurricane 5.9, Spitfire, probably Hobie 18, things like that. Not sure about the Hobie 18 actually. Can we remove that from the records? Is more rig tension is better for the lighter teams as well on those sorts of boat. So that is going to help to bring the up to a minimum 100. Okay, so Norman is 100 kilos, which, to be honest, if you're sailing in, let's say, up to 15 knots of wind, you'll be all right. You can use the methods that we've talked about to control the power. What you're going to have to do is on the upwind sailing, you might find yourself getting a bit overpowered earlier, of course, because you're lighter. So you might feel that even it's going to having like 40 kilos less on the boat is just going to make it seem like it's windier, which is nice. Means you don't have to sail in so much wind to get the really good stuff, which means you just have to tune the boat for higher winds when there's less wind so that you can handle the amount that you've got on the day. So yes, you can safely do this. Now, the one thing that you might not be able to safely do is, and Norman continues, terrified of capsizing. Yeah, if you're single-handed on a Tiger, will you be able to bring the boat back upright in the event of a capsize? I would say if it's not a silly capsize in very light winds, with the aid of a righting bag, you should be able to bring it back upright. And in fact, this is going on my videos to make list, is can you bring a Tiger back upright using the righting bag? Yes, I've done it with an FX1, which has got a similar heavy rig, but not with a Tiger specifically. So yes, I will try that and see how we get on with that. But yes, you can do it safely. But just the other thing to be aware of when solo sailing, if you are used to sailing with a crew, is just keep in mind, what if, and the biggest what if is, what if I fall off the boat? Refer to the video on tethering. So if you fall off the boat, you're still attached. Because with a boat with a self-tacking jib like the Tiger, if you fall off the boat, or if you've righted the boat after a capsize and you've lost contact with it, there is more of a likelihood the boat's just going to keep sailing off without you. All right. So there we go. I hope that helps, Norman. But yes, do it. The other big problem with sailing the Tiger solo is pulling it out of the water afterwards. That's going to be a bit more of an effort. All right. So Ryan in Maui says, I met up with Scott from Coltus Lake, who is Scott is a very regular contributor to the channel, and we had blasted off in ever-changing winds in Maui. It was so much fun to connect with another member of the Joyrider TV community and share the ride. Very nice. This is a success story of what has become of what we're doing here, because it's not just me, it's all of us. Yes, I'm the spokesman for the team, but that doesn't mean that it's just me. It's all of us. So thanks, everybody, for coming along on this great ride. Stephen says, all right, how much rudder angle do you think for a high wind jibe? 16 degrees. All right. Toot. Hello, Toot. Nice to have you on board. Oh, thanks very much, Norman, for your super sticker. That is very kind of you. And there is I think it's a hippo saying knockout. Perfect. That's what we're into. Okay, so just a little bit more in the preloaded. This one, oh, thanks very much, Philip, for your super sticker. And you've gone for an incredible like that. Very good. Next one in the preloaded. God, that beer is really calling me from the fridge. Sorry about that. I know for a lot of you, for Ryan, especially in Maui, it is the crack of dawn. Probably not what you want to hear. All right, Wilmot O says, how can you tell when there's a gust of wind ahead? That's a very good question. It is, unfortunately, it is a little bit venue specific because everywhere has got a different look to it. But basically, as we're sailing along, what we're looking for, we're always looking to where the wind is coming from that is going to affect us. So this is our wind direction. So the wind down here, not interested, because that is going to be moving away from us. Wind back here, never mind. But anything kind of like here, because when there's a gust, it's going to travel in the direction of the wind. So by the time we get over there, we're going to be in it. But anything in this kind of arena, not down here, is what we're looking at. And what we're looking for to spot a change in the wind on the water is some sort of different texture to the water. So when there's more air movement across the water, it brings the more, what would you call them, waves, more bits of chop, more ripples. So it will appear, it could appear in a great many different things. One way it might appear is a bit darker. One way it might appear, if it's a sunny day, is a bit shinier because it's got a bit more surface area reflecting the sun. So it's going to look different though. So that is what we're looking for. We're just looking for something that's different. If we see a big shiny patch of water, well, I said shiny for the gust, but we might have a big, very smooth looking patch of water. That is likely to be a lull, an area of less wind. So that's what we're looking at for. We're just constantly looking on the water for clues. And the more you do it, the more you'll learn how to spot them. Like I'm very much tuned in spotting gusts in Vassiliki Bay, and because it's got a certain look to it. And to be honest, I'm very tuned in to spotting gusts at certain times of the day, like when it is in the afternoon when it's normally windy. It looks different to how it does in the morning when it's not normally windy. So it is tricky, but you can do it. The more you do it, the easier it gets. All right, last question of the day is from Bone Crusher 494S2, of course, who asks, I've got the downhaul system installed on my Nacra 5.7. When do I want to adjust my jib Cunningham? Sorry, I thought the question was Cunningham. And I think you'll find we've already talked about that. Brilliant. Sorry, not to discourage any questions, but yes, we've already answered the question regarding the jib Cunningham. That was at the start, probably at about 25 minutes. So there we go. I think that brings us to a satisfactory conclusion. I'd like to say also to everyone, thanks for your continuing support on Joyrider TV, because of your support, it's kept things going. And just the other day, I had a new arrival. Oh, yeah. This is the GoPro Hero 12, brand new. It was first time out today, and it's very nice. The quality of the footage is a step higher. So thanks very much. From your support, this is how I'm able to keep going. And because unfortunately, as I said before, Hero 8, the camera's fine. This has been my #1 camera for a long time, but you can no longer get an original battery, new one for this. And the batteries in the heat, they swell up, they get bigger, and then there's a risk they're going to explode inside or leak at least, killing the camera. So if anybody can find or has batteries for a GoPro Hero 8 original, the ones with the blue bit on, because the ones with the black bit, they don't last quite as well, then let me know. And because I want to keep this one going. There we are. Yeah, so I think that's about the size of it. I'll see you on Sunday. That's actually tomorrow, would you believe? Tomorrow evening, normal time, for this video that I made today. Otherwise, thanks very much for tuning in, and I will see you soon with some more on Joyrider TV. Thank you.